Hello everybody. On top of the searing pain that is coursing through my body because of the injury to my back, one person from my chat decided it's time for me to make an Annihilation Marauder guide. So that's the new pain in my life. Now, before we jump into things, I have two disclaimers this time. The first of which is that I'm not an expert on Annihilation Marauder. I'm just a guy that knows what he's doing and has seen some success doing it. However, if you do have suggestions, please leave them in the comments below and help out your fellow peers. I try to make these guys as helpful as possible, and having experts in the chat leaving extra comments saying, hey, here's what I do, here's what I recommend, really does help other players. Secondly, Annihilation has a reputation of being a very difficult spec with a crazy 24 GCD rotation. The dirty secret is that for the vast majority of players, you don't need to know it. You will be perfectly fine in almost all content without following the rotation. I would much rather teach you the basics of what each ability is doing and how you should be using them than try to make you memorize some crazy 24 GCD rotation. If you're planning on being the top parser in your NIM raid, or if you want to be the number one parser on Parsley, you should probably sit down and actually memorize the rotation. I'm going to link a guide to that rotation from Volk in the description below. However, for 99% of players, it's completely unnecessary, and I'd rather teach you what your abilities are actually doing than try to force you to memorize something that is going to be complex and difficult. Additionally, following these rules and the priority system is going to get you like 95% of the way to actually follow the rotation. So now that those disclaimers have been covered, let's get into it. Annihilation is a builder spender spec. We have two resources that we need to be managing, our Rage and our Fury. However, it's pretty straightforward. Our builders for our Rage are going to be Battering Assault, or just regular Assault, which is going to generate 2 Rage, do a piddly amount of damage. It's really our oh shoot I messed up button. It's not that great, does a minor amount of damage. However, it's better than doing nothing. So if you have no Rage and you have no idea of what else to do, hit your regular Assault. Our Battering Assault is a little more useful. It does have a long cooldown of 14 seconds. However, it does a little bit more damage and it generates 6 Rage. Additionally, it leaves this debuff on the target called Beatdown, which means that melee attacks are going to be doing more damage to the target. So it applies a debuff, generates Rage for us. It's pretty nice. Our third way to generate Rage is going to be our Force Rend. Force Rend is our first dot. Annihilation is a dot spec, so it's going to be very important to us. It builds 3 Rage, and it's going to cause the target to bleed for 14,000 damage for the next 9 seconds. Now you may notice that the cooldown of Force Rend is actually 11 seconds. How is it going to be ticking for over 9 seconds if it has a cooldown of 11 seconds? Well, it's going to fall off a lot. So the first thing you need to know is that you should apply Force Rend to the target 24/7. It is your most important ability in the entire rotation. It doesn't do the most damage. However, it generates Rage and helps you generate Rage in other ways because of our passives. You can see here Hemorrhage. Your bleed effects have a 20% chance to build 1 Rage. When dealing damage, it cannot occur more than once a second. Because we have 3 dots ticking on the target at a time, that means you're going to have about a 60% chance to build a Rage every second, which means you're going to generate a Rage about once every other second, or once every 3 seconds, or once every 1.5 seconds. Additionally, Bloodlust here means that every time you critically strike a target that has a bleed on it, you're going to generate a Rage. It can only happen once every 3 seconds though. So on average, you're going to be generating like 2 Rage every 3 global cooldowns. So it's a passive way to generate that Rage, which is what we want. Rage against that machine. So smash that Force Rend 24/7. Let's talk about some other dots. We have our Rupture. Rupture is our most important dot in the game. What happens with Rupture is that if you stab the target, the tooltip here is actually incorrect. It does not stab it for 0 damage. It stabs it for like 8k. However, it's going to then bleed for like 24,000 damage in the next 9 seconds, which is very, very nice. We want to be having Rupture on the target 24/7. It also has no cooldowns, so we don't actually have to worry about it falling off. And there are some other things we're going to be talking about later that are going to help Rupture stay on the target. So those are our first 2 dots. We want these on the target 24/7. It is the most important thing for Annihilation to be building these dots on the target at all times. Now, we have a third dot that works a little bit differently called Deadly Saber. What Deadly Saber does is it gives you a buff here. Let me see. Yep, there we go. Deadly Saber. So that every time you attack the target, you're going to apply this debuff of Deadly Saber up to a total of 3 times. Deadly Saber ticks for like 5,000 damage per stack. So if you have 3 stacks on the target, 6,000 damage per stack, it's going to be ticking for like 18,000 damage in the next 6 seconds, which is pretty fantastic on top of the other dots we have on the target. Now, while we're on the topic of our dots, let us talk about our Fury. Fury is passively generated by just spending Rage. You can see here every time we spend Rage, we're going to be slowly building these stacks of Fury up to a total of 30. Once you have 30 stacks, you can either Bloodthirst, which is just your raid, your raid buff. It's going to cause all your party members to do 10% extra damage in the next 10 seconds. Your raid leader will call for this. We don't really have to worry about this for right now. Alternatively, you can spend it on Berserk. What Berserk does is it increases the critical chance of your bleeds by 100% and then heals your raid group in the process. So what we want to do is we want to maximize the total amount of bleeds on the target when we pop our Berserk, because Berserk does not last that long. It ticks off relatively quickly. So, in order to maximize the effects of our Berserk, what we want to do is be spending our Deadly Saber when there are less than 3 seconds left on Force Rend. What this is going to do is it's going to mean when we apply Force Rend on cooldown, as we always should, we can then immediately pop Berserk and then apply our final stack of Deadly Saber. Deadly Saber is actually not on the global cooldown, meaning we can pop it whenever we want to. So you can see here if I pop Rend and then Rupture and then keep Rupture ticking on the target, we'll talk about that in a hot second, and then wait till there's less than 3 seconds left. All right, 1, 2, now I Rend and Berserk, and then apply my final stack. Now I have all 3 of my dots ticking on the target while Berserk is running, which means I'm going to maximize the effect I'm getting out of Berserk. So, those are our first couple of basic rules. Rule number 1, Force Rend on cooldown 24/7. Rule number 2, Rupture on the target 24/7. Talk about that more in a bit. Rule number 3, Deadly Saber when there is less than 3 seconds left on your Force Rend. And then Berserking after Force Rend so that you have all of your dots ticking on the target at the same time. Let's run through that one more time now that I have all my stacks back. So you can see here, Rupture's on the target. Gonna wait until there's less than 3 seconds left on my Force Rend. 5, 4, 3. Now we Deadly Saber. 1 stack, 2 stack, dead, and then Rend, which means we can have our final 3rd stack on the target, doing the most possible damage with our Berserk. Okay, those are the basics of how to handle your dots. What now? Well, I'm glad you asked me, because Annihilation Marauder is very basic when it comes to actually dealing damage with your other abilities. Juggling your dots is one thing, but actually doing damage is far more easy when you're just applying your massive burst. First of all, we have this ability here called Annihilate. Annihilate does like 26,000 damage instantly, has a relatively short cooldown. It's pretty great. Additionally, when you apply Annihilate to the target, it does cost 4 rage, so be ready for it. When you apply Annihilate to a target, you're going to get this stack of Annihilator, which is going to reduce the cooldown of Annihilate by 1.5 seconds. It stacks up to 4 times, which means that the more you're casting Annihilate, the faster your cooldown is going to be. So you can see here, now I have 4 stacks of Annihilate, so my Annihilate has a 10-second cooldown instead of the original cooldown we had for it before. It's pretty great. We want to be smashing Annihilate on cooldown almost 24 seconds. See, here it's now down to 8 seconds. So that is our next rule. On top of applying all your dots and Deadly Sabering when there's less than 3 seconds, our next rule is going to be just smash Annihilate 24/7. Whenever it's off cooldown and your dots are running on the target, just smash Annihilate pretty much as often as possible. It is your most important single target damaging ability because it does big boy burst damage. That's rule number 1. At least for the straightforward damage abilities. Rule number 2 is that Ravage does not cost any rage, and so it does a bunch of damage. So smash it on cooldown. It is another ability that does a really solid amount of damage, but it also costs no rage, which means that you can be smashing it whenever. You don't have to be worrying about juggling your rage at all. It's pretty fantastic. You want to be hitting it pretty much whenever it comes off cooldown. Additionally, when our dots are ticking on the target here, I'm just going to apply them all real quick. Boom, 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 boom. Because of one of our passives here, called Pulverize, our bleed effects have a 20% chance to grant Pulverize, which is going to increase the damage dealt by a dual saber throw. Can happen once every 18 seconds. You can see here is our stack of Pulverize. It's going to make our dual saber throw glow, which means it's going to do a bunch of damage and cost no rage. So whenever dual saber throw is glowing, hit it. That's really all there is to it. Just Annihilate on cooldown, Ravage whenever it's off cooldown, dual saber throw whenever it's glowing. Now, let's talk about another ability interaction here. I mentioned before how Rupture is going to be ticking on the target all the time. That is because when we apply our dual saber throw, it's going to refresh and tick our Rupture damage. That means that we no longer have to worry about reapplying Rupture whenever we're on the target. That's because of the tactic that we're going to be taking called Spiteful Saber. Spiteful Saber is pretty much the go-to for PvE. It can be very good in PvP as well. If you're in like ranked PvP, you're just going to give you a different tactical. However, for most of us, Spiteful Saber is going to be the way to go, which means that Rupture deals 10% more damage, and then every time you use your Vicious Slash, which is our Vicious Slash is our primary damaging ability here, or our Dual Saber Throw, or our Execute Vicious Throw, Rupture is going to tick and then be refreshed. So Rupture is going to be ticking on the target pretty much 24/7. So, we've covered a lot here. Let's break it back down into little bitty consumable bits. First, apply our dots 24/7. Dots, dots, dots. We're going to be spending Annihilate, Ravage, and Dual Saber Throw on cooldown. When there's less than 3 seconds left on our Force Rend, we're going to be spending our Deadly Saber, and then we are going to be berserking whenever we pop our Force Rend. Now, that is the very basics rules that you need to be following. Once you have gone through, and if Annihilate's off cooldown or is on cooldown, if Ravage is on cooldown, and if Dual Saber Throw is on cooldown, then we can worry about actually juggling our force or our rage management. Keep calling it force. I'm so sorry. If Annihilate, Ravage, and Dual Saber Throw are on cooldown, you're going to spend on Vicious Slash. This is because it's going to be ticking and causing our our Rupture to refresh, and it's going to take a bunch of damage, and it's our basic spender. So, if Annihilate, Ravage, and Dual Saber Throw are all on cooldown, we want to be using Vicious Slash in the meantime. I know we've covered a lot here, but those are the very basic rules of what you need to know when playing Annihilation Marauder. I'm going to break it down one last time just so you know for a fact what you're getting into. Rules number 1. Always have your dots up. Dots up 24/7. Now we're going to wait. In the meantime, spend our other abilities until there is less than 3 seconds left on our Deadly Saber, Deadly Saber, Deadly Saber, Rend, Berserk, and now we just spend our abilities. None of our other abilities are up, so I'm going to be building and spending my rage on Vicious Slash. In between that, I'm going to be focusing on keeping all my other abilities off cooldown. There we go. Hippity hoppity. Your health bar is my property. Yep, this is great. This is all good. Okay. Yep, good, good, good. So always have your dots up. Deadly Saber 2 global cooldowns or 3 seconds before Rend, and always Berserk after Rend. Additionally, we're going to be smashing Annihilate on cooldown 24/7. We'll be smashing that Ravage button on cooldown 24/7. If it's glowing, smash that Dual Saber Throw 24/7. And then fill in between Vicious Slashing when you have the rage to do it, or Battering Assault when you don't have the rage to Vicious Slash. And finally, if you mess up, there's always Assault to get you that little bit of rage so you can get back in the action and ready to rock and roll. These are a lot of plates to juggle. However, if you sit down at a dummy and start playing around with it, you're going to find that it's not that difficult. It's just knowing what to be paying attention to and knowing what abilities to smash as much as possible. Alright, now let's talk about dot spreading. Dot spreading only takes place when you use your smash. It's pretty straightforward. If you apply your dots to the target, dot, 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 anytime you hit that smash button is going to spread your dot effects because we have hemorrhaging smash, which means that your smash is going to spread your rupture and force rend bleeds to the target. So it's only going to spread your force rend and your rupture. So if you're standing in the middle of a bunch of mobs or a bunch of players, just apply your dots to the target and then smash that smash button as often as possible. That's pretty much all there is to it. That's really all you need to know about dot spreading. Pretty straightforward. All right, let's walk through it one more time because I know there's a lot to deal with here. So we're going to do it in real time this time. We're going to see how it goes. So, leap in, apply dots, annihilate, ravage, dual saber throw, spending on slash. There's less than 3 seconds here on my force rend, so 1, 2, buckle my shoes, spend on berserk. Oh, this is just lovely. Okay, we're out of energy, which would be going to battering assault. Yep, great, good. We need to get our dots on the target at all times. Smashing that, annihilate 24/7 whenever possible. Boom, boom. Yep, this is good. So you can see here, I'm just focusing on what abilities are coming off cooldown before my dots expire. This is the most important thing. Keep my dots on the target at all times. And then just spending with Vicious Slash. And then refreshing with all my other abilities here. This is just dandy. Now, while we sit here and talk about this, let's talk about some offensive global cooldowns, notably Furious Power. Because of the set bonus that we're running, which is going to be the Descent of the Fearless set for PvE and then your regs PvP, Furious Power has a couple of advantages. The first is going to cause your next single target attack to increase in damage by 25%. Basically, it's free extra damage. However, because of our set bonus, we're going to be Descent of the Fearless. Anytime you gain or use a Furious Power while in combat, your damage is increased by 10% for 10 seconds. So it's a passive 10% damage increase for all of your damaging abilities. That's all of your dots, that's all of your direct attacks, etc. It's pretty fantastic. Additionally, dealing damage has a 10% chance to build a stack of Furious Power. It can only occur once every 5 seconds. Now, as a dot spec, we have a bunch of dots that are ticking on the target at any given time, which means that we're going to be building our stacks of Furious Power relatively quickly. Almost every 5 seconds, we're going to get another stack of Furious Power, which is pretty fantastic. Now, the way we want to be spending that Furious Power is going to be on Annihilates. Basically, you have enough to worry about as an Annihilation Marauder. The best way to be juggling your Furious Power is to be literally just smash it before every single Annihilate here. So we're going to spend our Furious Power and smash our Annihilate. Annihilate is our highest damaging ability. It's frankly the best way to do it. So that way, every time you're in the rotation and you're going to be smashing Furious Power without even looking at it, because either you do have it or you don't have it, it's totally fine. If you have the finger capacity to smash Furious Power before you smash Annihilate every time, that's what I recommend doing. That way you don't even have to worry about it. For example, now when I play Annihilation, I don't even think about, oh, do I have stacks of Furious Power? I'm just blindly clicking the button using my using my thumb here. So that way, if I have it and I spend it, great. If I don't have it, I don't lose anything. It's a passive way to boost your damage without even having to think about it. It's one less plate to juggle in a spec that's pretty heavily balanced into plate juggling. Now, that's our offensive cooldown here. Our defensive cooldowns are, for one, our Saber Ward, which is going to increase our defenses by 50% and then cause us to absorb 25% of force and tech attacks. Kind of lackluster, but lasts for 12 seconds, so it's nice. It's not fantastic. Something that is also nice but not fantastic is our Undying Rage. It has a very long cooldown, but reduces our damage taken by 99%, but only lasts for 4 seconds. So you want to be using it on like big incoming burst. Our bread and butter is going to be our Cloak of Pain. Cloak of Pain reduces all incoming damage by 20% and then deals some damage back to your attacker. Additionally, every time you're attacked, it's going to extend the duration of Cloak of Pain up to 30 seconds. It also has a 1-minute cooldown. So you can have Cloak of Pain up and running for almost half the time you're in combat, which is going to increase your damage reduction by 20%. It's very nice. We also have some additional abilities here like Mad Dash. Mad Dash has a 45-second cooldown. It is our mobility. You Mad Dash, and then you are immune from damage while you are mad dashing. So if you have expert timing, you can actually dodge out of like stuns, or abilities going to hit you really hard by just smashing mad dash and using it to get around the map. And finally, we have our Force Camouflage. Force Camouflage gives you a couple seconds of cloak here. I think it is 6 seconds of cloak, and increases your movement speed for a little bit. It's a great way to get out of trouble if you are in a bad situation. So, now that we've talked about the basics of what our abilities are, what dots to be spending, what priority to be smashing our direct damaging abilities in, let's now talk about our set bonuses and our utilities. As mentioned previously, we're going to be taking the Descent of the Fearless set bonus here in PvE content all the time. However, in PvP, you have the option of running Forcebound. Forcebound reduces the accuracy of enemy players by 70% every time you use your Intimidating Roar, which is your AoE CC. It's very overpowered in PvP right now. However, it does cost a bunch of credits, like 1 million or 100 million credits. So if you're poor, don't bother investing in it. But if you plan on playing like solo ranked PvP, I'd highly recommend looking into Forcebound. However, for most players, just go with Descent of the Fearless. It's going to be a passive damage increase. Now for our tactical, I recommend the Spiteful Saber tactical. It makes things a lot easier when juggling our dots. You're going to be doing a whole butt ton of damage with it. It's pretty fantastic. However, for you PvPers, there is a tactical here called the Felled Splice Genes, which means that after you activate your predation, which is your group-wide movement buff, so if I smash predation here, your cooldown of Force Camouflage will be reset. Now, if you are playing solo ranked, you should absolutely take the Felled Splice Genes. It's going to be the best defensive utility for you, and especially in like solo ranked and team ranked, your health bar is the most important resource, so protect it by using the Felled Splice Genes. However, for the rest of us, just take Spiteful Saber. Alright, now let's talk about our utilities. Marauder has a great problem in that it has a bunch of really useful utilities. If you're running in PvE, I would recommend running this right here. You're going to have the Cloak of Carnage. You're going to increase the damage of Cloak of Pain and extend its duration, so it's going to help you keep that Cloak of Pain up as much as possible. I'd take Brazen to get that extra 2 damage reduction, and then build that extra 2 Fury every time you're attacked, which is just going to help even more with your Fury generation. Additionally, in Cloak of Rage, because every time Cloak of Pain is activated, you're going to be generating more rage whenever you're attacked, which is just nice. And then Defensive Rule is going to reduce the damage taken from AoE attacks, and then increase your internal and external elemental DR by 3%, especially in PvE when there's a lot of AoE going out. This is going to help you survive those AoEs. In Masterful, you should probably take Phantom. It's going to increase your movement speed by 15%, and then increases the speed bonus of Force Camouflage. So if you're going to be running between mechanics, you can use your Force Camouflage to get there very quickly. And then just having that generally higher movement speed is pretty fantastic. Finally, we're going to take Relentless here. Relentless is going to cause your predation to no longer consume your stacks of Fury, and just going to give you a 30-second cooldown on predation. Predation is probably your most useful raid-wide utility that you bring to the table. It can help clear you of roots because of the utility we take up in Heroic. When predation is applied or refreshed, it purges movement pairing effects. Additionally, the movement speed of predation is increased by 30%. What that means is that anytime you predate, you're going to free your entire raid of all roots, which is pretty fantastic, and give them a little speed bonus, which is just phenomenal. Now, for the purposes of this guide, I took Brooding in Heroic here just so that I can show off the stacks of Fury, which I actually didn't end up doing. Especially for like your openers and like your raids, Brooding is going to be very helpful by building the stacks of Fury very quickly, which is going to be nice. Additionally, the cooldown of Intimidating Roar is decreased by 15 seconds, so you can be helping out with his AoE DCs. Very nice. Finally, you should probably be taking Thirst for Rage. It's going to help passively heal you for 1% of your health in every activated ability that consumes Rage. You can see here in this parse that I just did for fun, you can heal yourself for about 3.7k heals per second just by attacking the target and using your passive heals. Additionally, Carnage has the benefit of, I exited out, of Hungering, which means that your dots are all going to heal you for 15% of the damage that they deal. So you're going to be passively healing yourself through Hungering and through Berserk, and this is going to help add to that benefit. However, for you PvPers, you're going to have actually a completely different set of utilities here. So we're going to reset this. We're going to take Brazen again, and then we're going to swap to Inexorable, which means that you generate 4 range at a time you're sunned. Additionally, your CC breaker is reduced by 30 seconds, which is just very nice in PvP because CC is the worst. And then you take, again, defensive roll for that extra DR, which is just fantastic. Then we're going to take Subjugation. What Subjugation does is it helps buff our Obfuscate. We'll get to that in a hot second. And then we're also going to take Phantom and Relentless. And then we're going to take Unbound again, and then we're going to take Ruthless Aggressor. Now, we're going to finally talk about our Obfuscate here because of these two utilities that we've taken. For one, Obfuscate's cooldown is going to be reduced to like 45 seconds, which is pretty fantastic. And whenever you use Obfuscate, you're going to get an extra 75% damage reduction from force attack, which is pretty fantastic. Additionally, anytime you use Obfuscate in the target, it's going to give you the option of using your Vicious Throw. Vicious Throw is our execute here. Oh, I'm so sorry. Is our execute. It does a colossal amount of damage. Whenever you get into the execute phase, you just be smashing it as much as possible. And so by having Ruthless Aggressor, you can be using your Vicious Throw and having that little extra burst on the target, which is just really nice. Finally, we're going to be taking Blood Ward. Anytime you use Saber Ward, it's going to give you immunity from your CC effects, which is just pretty fantastic. Additionally, it's going to give you a little bit of extra heals every time you use Saber Ward. It's going to turn Saber Ward from a meh CD into a it's still alright DCD. Alright, let's loop everything together in one last roundup of the rules. So, dot rule number 1 is to always have your dots up as much as possible. Dot rule number 2, you're going to use your Deadly Saber when there is less than 3 seconds left on your timer for your Force Rend. And rule number 3 is to smash that Berserk button after Force Rend every single time. That way you get the most benefit out of your Rends, or of your Berserks. Now, the straightforward damage rules. Number 1, you're going to smash that Furious Power Annihilate button as often as possible. Is your highest performing damage. Pretty fantastic. That straightforward damage in rule number 2 is to smash that Ravage button 24/7. And then rule number 3, smash that glowing dual saber throw button as often as possible. Now, when Annihilate, Ravage, and dual saber throw are on cooldown, you're going to be spending on Vicious Slash and balancing that between how much rage we have and how much rage we have, or rather don't have. If we get down below 4 rage here, we're going to be spending on Battering Assault. You don't really want to be using Battering Assault if you're over 5 rage, because that would just be a waste of extra rage. But other than that, just fill with your Vicious Slash. Those are the basic rules that you need to know. I would highly recommend sitting down at a dummy and practicing them, because that's the only way to get better at this game. I can only teach you so much. I hope you now have a better understanding of what the abilities are actually doing. But now let's hop into a match, and then we will see how it actually plays in a PvP situation. So about 2 seconds. Alright, I'm not going to lie to y'all. This game was weird. It is an Annihilation Marauder game. It's the first one I got into. Things got a little strange very quickly. So we're going to hop down immediately and go find someone to murder. We are lucky enough to have an actual healer in this game, plus a healer with a guard. Just he's going to be super tanky. I see 2 guys trying to run over and do some stuff for a pylon. So let's go put a stop to that. I can see it is a healer. Now, I have a sinking suspicion about this healer. He doesn't have a stim on. He CCs me immediately, so I'm going to break that and then just go to town, because I think, I'm here to actually show off the content. And then he bubbles, which is going to be, the interesting time. So kind of bored. I figured, you know what, screw it. I'll wait it out. So what I do is I wait it out. I start applying my dots immediately, doing the big boy burst on him, waiting. Okay, now his bubble is run off, so we can actually start doing the damage on him. Now he is going to do a smart here. He's going to do a big smart. He's going to do the old razzle dazzle. Oh look, where is he possibly going to go to? Oh, is it his phase walk? Unfortunately for him, he doesn't know that I have the force speed provided by camouflage, so I can walk right by this guy right here and get to him before he can get to his extra speed. And give him the old CC, and now we just give him the old bonk. So 1 dot, 2 dot, 3 dot, annihilate on cooldown, ravage, and smash that dual saber throw, and then he's in execute range, and we murder him. That's how fast you can do damage in Annihilation. It does have surprisingly good burst if you can get all your dots ticking on the target at once, and then annihilates off. I see these guys running back towards mid. I assume they just haven't seen me here, and I'm wondering if this is possible to just go over here and snag this pylon. I'm going to give it a few seconds here. You don't want to snag the pylon too early. Otherwise, it gives the team time to come back. However, we can literally just walk here and snag the pylon and then call it a day. Yep, that's our pylon now. I'm going to sit here and chillax for a little bit. Unfortunately, there's no way for me to be building my stacks of Fury because we don't actually have the utility that gives us the 30 stacks of Fury whenever we regenerate. However, it's not that important to us right now because we can just be sitting here waiting, chilling out. you actually don't want to be sitting on the pylon when you're defending. If you sit on the pylon, it gives sappers the opportunity to go out and sap you up and cap. So you want to be standing about 30 meters off the pylon to avoid meeting a terrible fate of getting sap capped, which is just the worst. See, this guy thinks that he can get over there and stop the pylon for us, but we're not going to allow that. That's illegal. So what we're going to do is we're going to apply our dots here whenever I'm out of CC, which could be in 30,000 years. Yep, feels good. 1 dot, spread the dots to Mr. Canadian Crippler. Canadian Crippler is a known regger. He's a guy that does a bunch of damage in Regs PvP. He usually has a good squad with him, so he's somebody we're looking out for. Again, just applying our dots and spreading it using Smash because it feels good. And then finally, a priority system of just annihilating, ravaging, and dual saber throwing on cooldown. Again, here applying both of our dots. We're going to spend Berserk here out of the hope we can get this guy down. Oh, is he going to get that before the pylon gets him? Yeah, he's going to die to a Deadly Saber for 5,778 damage. Feels good. Now we can actually just run right back to the pylon here. We have the advantage of having a speed boost of our Force Camouflage. Hopefully they're not going to see us running towards their pylon. If they do, that's totally fine. I honestly think we can take this team pretty easily. So we're going to go big penis. This is a great opportunity for us to show off the DCDs here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leap in and then let them all stack up so I can spread my dots to them. 1 dot, 2 dot, smash dot. Feels good. Popping that Saber ward for the immunity of CC so I don't just get CC to death here. And then smashing and spreading dots and using the self heals to keep myself at a relatively stable level here. And then just smash as often as possible to keep to keep the dots rolling as many targets as possible 24/7. You can see now our team has arrived, so I did spend my Undying as well to get that little bit of immunity, but now we should be in pretty darn good shape. We can stack on top of these people and then literally just ruin all their day by dot spreading and doing a monstrous amount of damage. Monster kill, as that one game said. Just dot spreading 24/7 feels good, man. Now we do have these guys kind of free casting over here. We have Akarios, who I've seen before, so we got to be taking care of him. Can't let him free cast, or otherwise bad things happen. Again, just dot spreading 24/7 over here, using my predation to break those roots, and then just trying to nuke targets as quickly as humanly possible. Again, 1 dot, 2 dot. Try to get the burst on him, but he's going to bubble in time to prevent me from murdering him, which is going to be the big sad for me. So instead, we're just going to come over here and find this healer who is going to be healing his team, which we cannot allow. That is illegal, sir. So when you, again, annihilate, ravage, there's nothing else off cooldown, so I can just be spending my slash and keeping my rage up in check. You can see we built 4 rage there because we got CC'd, which is why we took that utility. It was pretty nice. We did kind of just abandon that healer in the lurch there, but we found this squishy Sork instead that we kind of bullied before. So we're just going to quickly bully him again and remind him that I am the god of this game, not him. I'm so sorry, sir. Try to hunt down where that operative went, but it's kind of game over for those guys. So what I'm going to do instead, I'm just going to stealth out and steal the pylon. These guys are a little too far off the pylon to come back here and grab it in time, or at least in time that they notice. They don't seem to be paying too much attention to the pylon, and by the time that this guy realizes, oh, there's somebody at the pylon, it's kind of too late for them. So we're going to cap it and then end the game in a record amount of time. Here's our friend that was doing the heals number 4, big dot spread, just the beautiful smashes. There we go. We've finally made him pay for his sins. This was a very quick game, kind of showing off some of the defensive capabilities, the dot spreading, and then just the ridiculous amount of bursts that you can perform on a target when you have the big boy Annihilation ready to rock and roll. If you have any questions about Annihilations, please let me know. I'll get back to you in the comments as soon as possible. Again, you don't have to follow the full rotation guide. You can just sit here and follow these basic rules, and you'll be perfectly happy with how you're performing. So, until next time, I hope you guys have a fantastic day. Thank you again for all the support. I really do appreciate it. And I can finally cross this garbage class off my list. So that's all, folks. You take care now. Ta-ta.